So diversity is our strength on the right wing, at least I'm told now, because of our new lovely cabinet that's very diverse. And this rhetoric has weirded me out to no end. Seeing people who were obsessively talking about the fact that we don't want diversity quotas, that's what the left does, now cheering on that we have diversity quotas, at least the Conservative Party in the UK has done that and got the results they wanted, which is weird, to say the least. But just to mention first, just going to mention here that if you want to find out the ideological roots of this stuff, you can always go and check out our premium podcast on the origin of intersectionality. It's Kimberly Crenshaw there, critical race theorist in chief, and the lady who coined the term intersectionality, of course, in her essay there. So go and check that out. But just to get into what the hell I'm talking about, if we go to the first one here, you can see the Telegraph headline, which came out. Liz Truss forms the most diverse cabinet in history with no white males in top jobs.
And the previous cabinet was the most diverse cabinet in history before then. So it's getting more and more. It's, just a few years, it's sort of leapt over a lot of hurdles that you'd think would take decades to clear.
Yeah, and the cabinet before that, Theresa May's, had the least number of privately educated ministers of all time. So it's just like, why is this even a story anymore? Frankly, I mean, like, you kind of get it when it's Obama, right? Like the first black president or something. But I mean, like the second black president, do you care? Third? Fourth?
Yeah.
I mean, at what point do you just go, okay, whatever? Like,
yeah, well, I think one of the good things about the Tory, I mean, Cameron put in quotas to get more women and I think more ethnic minority representation in the cabinet and in the government. But now, it's pretty obvious that the Tories are really doing things more on merit than they're not waving a flag about it. But also, I think there's.
I wish they weren't.
But they're not, and it's the left who then look like racist because they're coming out and being like, these like there's somebody, Ian McWhirter, this Scottish nationalist guy, came out and described them as coconuts.
Yes.
Which, yeah, and like nobody of the Tories was being like, oh, look at our incredibly diverse, colours of Benetton panel.
Some of them were though.
Yeah, obviously you're going to brag. You're going to brag a bit that, the Tories have delivered, even though, the Tories aren't supposed to be the progressive party, they've delivered.
They all still brag about being progressives,
they've delivered the third. Yeah, but Labour are supposed to be the true progressives. Look at that. Keir Starmer. You couldn't get any whiter or manner.
But it's a weird thing to do, isn't it? Because you wouldn't imagine the Labour Party coming out and being like, well, we're the true conservatives here. Don't you know, Mr. Conservative Party, we're doing better than even you.
Yeah.
It wouldn't happen.
Not since Tony Blair.
I suppose so. I don't know when he did that, except maybe on his rhetoric on crime, perhaps. But anyway, so the story here, she appointed her key ally, I'm going to butcher the names, Kwasi Kwarteng, there we are, who has Ghanaian heritage, to the Treasury, James Cleverly, whose mother is from Sierra Leone, was made Foreign Secretary, and Suella Braverman, whose parents are of Indian origin, became Home Secretary. That being the toppest jobs, including her, of course, as Prime Minister, also not being a white man, which this is cause of celebration, apparently, which is weird. I did see Douglas Murray talking about this very funnily, where he mentioned, like, because there's this rhetoric that because you're more diverse, you bring a new perspective to whatever you're doing. And it's like, is the dude really going to bring, like, Ghanaian economics to the Treasury? I don't think he is.
No.
I think he's probably going to bring Western economics. Like, his education's more important.
Yeah, and he's educated at the same kind of places as everybody else. I think Kwasi Kwarteng went to Cambridge or Oxford, as far as I can remember. Then was a columnist for the Telegraph. So yeah, I mean, he's not a grime rapper.
Yeah. If we go to the next one here, like, I get it. I kind of get it. This is a Sophie here of I follow. I'm not having a go. It's just, the Jeremy Corbyn tweets are funny, as you can see, just being like, only Labour can be trusted to unlock the talent of black, Asian, and minority ethnic people, as if you literally own them and you've got the key.
Yeah.
Like, we've got the key to the chains. I was like, right, okay. Thank you, Mr. Slaver.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's funny, but if we go to the next one here, you have, of course, the leftist response to all of this diversity and inclusion, as the right is, cheering about, or at least some of them are. And you have Nadia Whittome here, an Islamo leftist, who decided to come out with a black kid in poverty won't be inspired that it's a black chancellor letting him go hungry, blah-de-blah-de-blah.
He might be like, you know what? My parents are useless, but maybe I can grow up and be successful like this chancellor.
Yeah.
Maybe there aren't those barriers in the way for me.
Maybe I could become Ghayanan. It's just like, maybe. But yeah, so Nadia is wrong on that point. But then she blathers on about the fact that basically they're the wrong kind of ethnics. That's her complaint.
Right.
Which is, you may have an ethnic minority background, but
they're still successful, which is bad.
You're not a socialist, so we don't like you. And that's all it ever comes down to.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't care about whether or not you have brown skin.
Yeah.
They care about whether or not you're a red.
Yeah.
And that's all they've ever got.
Well, and this is why I think it's quite clever of the Tories. And like, man, I think Kemi Badenoch, Kwasi Kwarteng, Suella Braverman, these are people, Priti Patel, these are people who have some great conservative ideals. And I think it's clever of the Conservatives to put people with ethnic minority heritage or global majority, whatever the correct term is.
Yukma, I think is correct.
Yeah,
I'm not even joking.
BIPOC or BEAM or whatever you're supposed to say.
It's UK minority, ethnic, global heritage minority.
Oh my God, jeez,
it's awful.
We're gonna run out of ink. This is what's going to bring down Western civilization. We'll run out of ink to use all these terms. But if you put somebody like Priti Patel in that position, she could do things that a white man would be condemned as appallingly racist.
But that's a weird situation to find yourself, because if you're the Conservatives, like, who's actually the one who's going to be screeching you're a racist? It's going to be the Labour Party, socialists, leftists who don't support you or vote for you anyway.
White men.
But that's the thing. Like, if you're a white man and you became Home Secretary and gave the policy of gonna send them to Rwanda, boys.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really think you should actually care about the left wing screeching that this is racismus.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Nothing.
I mean, I think the people on the left screaming racism has lost all its bite and all its meaning. It's been completely devalued through overuse. Yeah, it's been completely diluted.
And there's also just the point of the left do not care about diversity anyway. Never have. Like, it's just obvious shilling, because they've got Nadia here, but then you also have Alistair Campbell, who's like, what about the fact that they're Ethan educated? And you can make these arguments all day and go in circles, but the fundamental point is they do not care about diversity. Never have. I mean, it is just a racket that they use as a stick to hit the right. Just, you're not diverse, you're not diverse. And the Conservatives for some reason took their attacks seriously. And then
I mean, you can say that, but also, I mean, I think it gives the Conservatives power that they wouldn't otherwise have. It papers over an angle of attack that the left would have for the Tories if they were just all straight white men. And also, I get the feeling with the Tories, it's done mostly on merit rather than with the left. It always seems to be this obsequious, fake box-ticking exercise.
It is true that the ethnic minorities in the Conservatives versus the ethnic minorities in Labour, there is a stark difference. And I remember seeing Kemi actually laughing about this, basically being like, you guys are, the special bus version of us. Because you guys...
Kemi Badr, one of the great things about Kemi Badr, always puts the right shoes on the right feet. Incredible.
It's the little things that matter. But it's also not like the left ever cared about racism, as you mentioned. If we go to the next one here, we have a chap who... very serious, Ian here, responding to the diversity by going a coconut cabinet. Right, okay, thanks. He deleted this one.
Yeah.
He
deleted. Did you see the apology he put in its place?
Oh, no, I didn't.
So he said, I was just trying to make the point that, the Scotland's cabinet is hideously white. It's like, so now you're being racist against white people. There it is, hideously white. It makes the Scottish government look hideously white. Oh, so now white is hideous.
But that's the thing, he won't delete that.
Yeah, he won't delete that. And also, man, like, people are saying, but he's not being racist, he's just saying it's very white. It's like, would you say hideously black? No, of course you wouldn't. Because you'd be decried, you'd be fired, you'd never work again, you'd be in jail.
The Labour Party is hideously black. I mean, that headline right there.
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone ever said that in public life sincerely, like, it's done.
Yeah. So it's obvious. People talk about systemic racism. It's pretty obvious where the racism is. And
what's permitted as well.
And what's permitted.
Yeah, because you could say that there is racism against people who with brown skin, of course, but it is instantly deleted, backtracked, and erased.
And recognised widely, across society as a terrible thing. But if you say something against white people, you get your own BBC TV series.
You certainly do. If you go to the next one here, there's also just the point, he did also mention this elsewhere, as the quote is, suddenly it's the Scottish government who looks hideously white. So again, didn't delete that, not unhappy about that. Yep. Keeps that one up. But also, if we go to the next one,
Scotland's 96% white. I mean, despite the
SNP's white.
despite the SNP's best efforts to try and import everybody from anywhere where people have terrible attitudes to women and homosexuals,
the good places.
It's still 96% white. So obviously, it's going to be mostly white.
I do love that because we keep getting stories. I don't know how popular they get in Scotland, but there's just like occasionally a headline will blow up because it's refugees sent from England to Scotland return because it's too cold.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
Nobody's crossing the channel to try and get to Motherwell.
No.
You know what I mean? They want to go to London or
But we can see some other Conservatives who had a go at this, and this is Theresa May, a certain nobody, just former PM, who'd obviously had another jab, just being like, hey, why is it that we've got all the women PMs and you've got no one, not even a Labour leader?
Yeah,
I did
they got Eddie Izzard.
They do. Did he get a seat in the end or not? I think he did.
I think he's running in Sheffield, but he's definitely a woman. I mean, she's definitely a woman.
Oh my God, could you? He should. Eddie should run for leader. That would be hilarious. Why did he keep the name Eddie if he's whatever? But I did like, there was a joke from Liz being like, well, why can't they even get a leader outside of North London? Okay, yeah, funny. But the Labour Party have always had a leftist as leader. That's really the important thing here.
Yeah.
You can have as straight and white as man as your leader, but if I don't have any ideological representation, why would I be interested?
Yeah.
It's like Keir Starmer's a straight white man. You joining the Labour Party and campaigning for them anytime soon, Leah?
No.
Weird that.
Yeah.
It's almost like there is something more to it than that. But the Conservative Party does actually struggle with trying to get ideological representation.
Yeah.
And the reasoning for this seems to be, as I was alluding to and you mentioned, they did actually somewhat abandon it. Because if we go to the next one here, we can see Darren Grimes. And he was mentioning here, isn't it great how, we have it on merit. It's interesting that people are, gloating about the fact there's no white males. And that's a conversation to be had about the fact that obviously you're racist against white men. But it's the fact that they're on merit. However, this doesn't seem to be true. Because if you go to the next one here, we have Elizabeth Truss herself being a diversity hire from David Cameron.
Yeah.
Unironically. I mean, this is the article for people in question. You might want to go check it out. If you go to the next link, we actually have the article itself.
Yeah, around about 20 years ago, both parties did this. So there's Blair's Babes, and then Cameron did the same thing. But I mean, it was really to make the party more electable. And also, I think ethnic minority people don't feel as afraid of expressing what they really think a lot of the time. So
they don't have the same worries, do they?
Yeah, and also, man, like I think Priti Patel and Suella Braverman. So they were both, as I understand it, they're both Ugandan, East Asian. So their parents or the grandparents were refugees when Idi Amin
from Africa
took over. Yeah, from Africa. So yeah, I mean, that way, I think there's 35,000 Ugandan East Asians came to the UK, and really, overall, just made a massive contribution to the UK and became like model citizens.
So, some of them, I don't know as to what percentage with those ones, but I know that the Pakistani community has had struggles with poverty that have led to other problems.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, but that's not the same.
Not the people running from Africans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going away from Idi Amin. But if you go to the article itself here, we have just David Cameron listing. Like, I literally brought in diversity quotas.
Yeah.
I'm not messing around. I did not do this organically. I mean, direct quote: "We would draw up a priority list, of which half would be female and a large proportion would be from black and minority ethnic backgrounds. Associations in winnable seats would have to choose from the A list, as we called it, and they would be encouraged to select candidates through open primaries, in quotations, that were open to non-party members. Many on the right found this hard to swallow." Funny. It's almost like the right-wingers didn't want to do left-wing things. Yeah, confusing that. Conservatives have an aversion to positive discrimination. No, they haven't. Like, complete ideological opposition to it, not aversion. "We believe in people rising to the top through their own merit." Which is not what happened. As he says, the trouble was this just wasn't happening organically, so artificially it was done instead, which is that we just promoted people because they were a woman or brown. And as you say, I mean, Tony Blair did this as well.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, I think it's sort of, they're obviously systemic barriers. I hate to sound all woke. Oh man, you always make me sound woke, but there's
you keep saying it.
There were barriers. There were barriers in place to people from because you got.
Well, then you eliminate whatever those barriers are specifically.
Yeah, but it takes decades to eliminate. I mean, a lot of it's what schools you go to, and because look how many people in the cabinet went to Eton, for example.
Yeah.
So a lot of it's I'd say class is like a bigger barrier than gender or ethnicity now.
Well, it's obvious that gender and ethnicity aren't a barrier. I mean, 0%. I mean, when none of the top jobs are white men, they're all people from an ethnic minority or a woman background.
Yeah.
Then what barrier?
Yeah.
Like, there just isn't one. So, I mean, class, you can make that argument, as said. I mean, I think it's 64% private schools now.
Yeah.
Rather than, I think Theresa May got down to 40 or something. But either way, it's just obvious that this is not something where you can sit there and celebrate, oh my God, look how the merit system has succeeded. no, this was an artificial system specifically for Elizabeth Truss.
Are you saying the government over the last 12 years hasn't been the most high-functioning, flawless government with amazing policies?
They have done rather leftist things, yes. I mean, this one being one of them. It's just like, you didn't need to do this. No one asked you to do this. You just did it yourself because you were like, well, like get criticised by Labour.
But then all the people I feel ideologically aligned with in the government, the proper conservatives, a lot of them, like Priti Patel, Suella Braverman, Kemi Badenoch, a lot of them are ethnic minority and women as well.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what achievements they make. I was kind of annoyed that Kemi's got like transport, trade or something.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why are you not in culture? Like, you could actually destroy them on culture, but anyway, whatever. But if we go to the next one, we see David Lammy's response to all of this is transparent. Like, he actually sees through all of it. David Lammy said in response to the cabinet having no white men, "It's not a partisan issue at all. It goes to the heart of the country we want to be," which is none of you. David Lammy genuinely is a racial nationalist. So I genuinely believe he wants a minoritarian society where we literally prioritize minorities.
Yeah.
And if you think I'm...
isn't that what we've got?
Yes.
I mean, have you seen any adverts in the last couple of years?
Such as the next one. I mean, I know you've seen this, maybe. Just there you have it.
Oh, yeah, I've seen this.
The new NHS movement within the NHS, if you could scroll down, John, just because the quote is the hilarious thing. "See Me First" campaign.
Yeah.
With the colour swatch.
Yeah. And I mean, this would be less worrying if it wasn't like healthcare. It's like, we're only going to keep people on this colour chart alive. White people, the morgue is over there. If you could just go save us some time by going and lying in it.
Healthcare only applies to these colours.
Yeah.
For now, we don't have the resources.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if they did this, but it was like white people?
It just doesn't happen.
I mean, there's your systemic racism.
Yeah, I do love how in the United States this has happened as well. We read about it in one of our book clubs. So I think it was Boston hospitals, the heart surgery wards dealing with people having heart attacks.
Prioritizing.
Yeah, they prioritize people with brown skin and let the white ones die.
Yeah, to offset some sort of
racial injustice
that happened 400 years ago.
It's like, okay, right, we're literally killing white people, are we? Healthcare. But if we go to the next one here, we can see Trevor Phillips, who also came in here and mentioned something really funny, which is he says, not as he predicted last December, but it's difficult to ignore history being made when all of the top 5 jobs in the government are filled by women or a person of colour. And then more. It matters. Potential next PMs can put paid to prejudice. I'm like, what prejudice?
But Obama made a good point when he was elected. He said it removes the excuse. Nobody can be like, oh, I can't do that,
Is it because I was black? Like, bro, no.
Yeah.
That is a fair point. He says
maybe say it if you're white now.
He said in his article long ago, in what is this, like December last year, really funny. Like, he just writes, ironically, if I'm right, there is a dispiriting corollary for any of those souls who think that another woman or person of colour in number 10 would herald the end of the world as we know it. There is only one route back to the 1920s suburban world of the Williams family. They need a party that which, when represented with 4 women, one of them from an ethnic minority background and a man, does what it has done once again and picks the man. That'll be the Labour Party. Which, yeah, there you are. But this logic makes no sense. Again, as if like the sex and gender of the person is the primary characteristic.
But with the Labour Party, even when they pick a woman, it's Eddie Izzard.
Yes. Although Carl has been joking about this because there's kinds of representation, of course. He's reading a book on it. I'll do a book club on it, I imagine. But you have, ideological representation matters most in politics. And then the argument from these people being like, oh, yeah, but then there's physical representation.
Right.
Is he a white man? And if you're not getting ideological representation from the Conservatives or Labour, I mean, if you're a white man, at least you've got Keir Starmer, who is a white man.
Yeah.
So he's threatening to join the Labour Party over there, which gonna have to disavow. But anyway, we get the next one here. Is also just this is what worries me about this stupid rhetoric of like, oh my god, isn't this great? Because of course, if you can't actually oppose diversity quotas as a right winger within the right wing party, well then why do I trust you to propose anything the left does?
Yeah.
And this is just endless examples of things that were promised to be gotten rid of and didn't. Here you have the Telegraph writing that NHS hiring more diversity managers and 77 grand, despite the war on wokery.
Yeah, and these, this is just the tip of the iceberg of the whole equality, diversity and inclusion movement, which is taking a grip over HR. And if you look at the amount being spent on it, the amount that HR departments are sucking in, they're sucking in a bigger, it's going up exponentially. It's like the number of children transitioning. And so, the cost is becoming unsustainable. And also, they don't actually increase productivity or increase profits. They're not, it's an unproductive role.
Well,
what it does is they say like, oh, long term it's going to increase productivity because you're going to have more diversity and diversity is strength.
But then I'm looking at
there's been no studies done on whether diversity actually is strength. There's a lot of societies like Japan that are very ethnically homogenous and are quite, successful. So, it's a mantra rather than science.
Well,
and what they do is they get involved in any sort of hiring or any business decision, and they make it all about diversity and inclusion. And that means that you're not making that business decision based on what is the most profitable or the most effective.
You're looking at your badge, the collar swatch from earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, that's what these people are for. The NHS diversity managers.
Yeah.
Who do you think did that campaign?
Yeah.
It's these guys. In case you're wondering, this 17 jobs just found on that day that they have a look. So it's £1 million in annual salaries.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And if you go to the next one, we have the RAF, of course. So this is more of the government saying they're unashamed of its diversity targets. These diversity targets saying that they're just not going to recruit white men anymore.
Yeah, this was mad. The RAF said they're
doubled down.
And the head of recruitment, I believe, stood down because she was so appalled by this directive from the diversity and inclusion.
But the institution, unashamed.
Yeah, but they said, oh, we need to have 30% women and or is it 30%, 20% ethnic minorities and 30 or 40% women, and it's like, why?
Because otherwise the helicopters will stop working.
Why can't we just have the best person flying the plane? Surely when it's something that's really important, like brain surgery or flying a fighter jet or something like that, fair enough, it's Haringey Council, you're just, pushing bits of paper around, getting in people's way. You can have, it doesn't matter, who you hire because it's a pointless job. But if it's something that, like fair enough, the best pilot might be a one-legged Ghanaian dwarf lesbian. It might be. So hire.
I don't think it will.
Hire her. But, if it's a white guy, just hire the white guy who's the best,
Plus, who wants a woman pilot? Anyway, go to the next one here because we have just more of this. As you have the BBC, another British institution that the Conservatives said they would sort out, and they just haven't, is the new head of diversity and inclusion. The old one was getting paid £260,000.
What?
So this one, I'm sure, is on substantially more. And if we go to the next one here, this is just what I expect the Conservative Party to become. This is some advert on some Facebook group where they're advertising weird lifestyles, to say the least. We're going to play it. It's the
oh my god,
creepiest, groomeriest thing, but also I just imagine it being the next Conservative Party, public broadcast. Let's play.
These polyamorous parents let their children choose their gender. And for their oldest child, Hazel, that's neither male nor female.
Please tell us how and why you decided to come out as non-binary.
Because the pronouns she and he did not fit, non-binary was what I turned to. Though I do choose to act and look more feminine.
Can I go down now?
Of course.
And 2.5-year-old Sparrow has yet to make a choice about their gender.
Sparrow, do you want a banana?
They're anti-gender, but we're using they, them pronouns. Sure, they have anatomy, we understand it, but that's not indicative of their identity. It's something that Sparrow's gonna have to figure out and then tell us before we can tell anyone else.
Particularly because it's, something that our parents did and they got it wrong.
Yeah. Oh, but there you have it.
That wasn't a conservative political broadcast, please.
Why wouldn't it be? That's my point, which is that if you're willing to accept leftist nonsense on, we need diversity quotas because, we need to defeat the left on diversity. And it's like, okay, well, now you've done all that. You've destroyed your own ideology. Good job. But at least you've got brown women.
I think it was just a temporary thing. David Cameron, Cameron, who, by the way, David Cameron doesn't represent modern Tories because he's a real, sort of leftist, socialist, rubbish Tory. So I think he just did it to sort of as a one-time quick fix to boost diversity in the Tory party.
I wish I could believe that, but I genuinely think that this ideological problem is something that the mainstream Tories can't even oppose successfully and are continuing to some extent. And the cheering about it is something that's kind of gross.
Well, I'm slightly more optimistic. I think people like Kemi Badenoch, she can oppose it better as
because she doesn't cheer it on
as a person of colour.
Yeah.
I think it helps.
I remember she actually gave a speech about this in front of Diane Abbott, of all people, because Diane was there talking about how we need diversity quotas. It's like, yeah, we do for you.
Yeah.
And and Kemi was literally responding like that. She stood up and gave a speech and went, yeah, I didn't have diversity quotas for me. I had to beat all the lawyers and doctors and stuff. I just won my place. So she sort of gives like side-eye to Diane, just like, pathetic.
That's cheating.
Basically,
Diane's
yes.
like, you're cheating.
Yeah,
you're
by
cheating.
being good.
You got there by meritocracy.
So
that's bad.
There you have it. It's just I don't like this rhetoric of diversity as a strength coming from the right, and I do wonder, if you can't stand up on that principle, what will you stand up on? If you appreciated that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content we have on the site, such as the Epoch series, this one on the Anglo-Saxon Game of Thrones. You want to find out what else we're putting out? You can follow us on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.